next speaker said yes to the opportunity to give a speech tonight. But he said no last week, and he had a good reason to. It got him to thinking about how important it is not always to agree to do everything that is asked of you, unless it ultimately meets your needs and your priorities. Entitled The Subtle Art of Saying No, please help me welcome distinguished Toastmaster Nick Smith.
I was having a text conversation with our club's new sergeant-at-arms last week, Diane, who's not here tonight. And it occurred to me as I was chatting with her to mention that I wanted her to make sure that if she ever felt the slightest tingle of they're asking too much of me, to let someone know, let the president know, say something to me or another Toastmaster. Madam Toastmaster, Area Director Aleo, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. I see this happen in Toastmasters, other groups as well, but since we're here, this makes it relevant here. I see this where it feels good when you're asked to do something to say yes. It feels good to volunteer to step up. But I've noticed that sometimes you have someone join a group like this and they're bright-eyed, they're bushy-tailed, they're eager, they're excited, they want to participate, and they say yes whenever you ask them to help with something, and you unintentionally abuse that eventually, and that can result in people being frustrated and sometimes even giving up on Toastmasters, and that's really sad when that happens. The title of this talk is The Subtle Art of Saying No, but I thought I would start by examining why it's important that we say yes often. You're all here tonight because you said yes. I'm going to come to a Toastmasters meeting tonight. Yes, I'll show up. This meeting came together because we have a president and a vice president of education, all these board members who said, yes, I'll step up and be part of this club's executive board and help do the homework and make things come together. Saying yes helps you grow. It helps you meet people. Saying yes helps you be part of something bigger. Being part of Toastmasters makes you bigger. Juan, you're part of something bigger. You're probably already feeling it, aren't you? There's a lot of great reasons to say yes, and you should continue to say yes whenever you can. But sometimes, like I said, it's easy to say yes too much. Let's analyze why you might instead say no. I broke this down into two categories just because of the time available here today. And the first one that came to mind is logistics. For example, let's say you're asked to run a club event in a couple weeks. Let's say there's a speech contest or some sort of event coming up, but you're going to be out of town or out of the country for a week. You're not doing anyone any favors by volunteering or saying, yes, I'll do that if you're not going to have the time, right? A logistics issue. Just like if you don't have transportation, or perhaps you don't have a certain skill set and you're simply not going to have the time to build that skill set to fulfill that need and step up and perform that volunteer function. So logistics are very important, and that's why I mentioned in my introduction, Jeannie and I had COVID a few weeks ago. I knew I could be here and we'd take it easy, and I thought, I'm testing negative for a couple of days, but maybe I shouldn't get in front of this group and start talking to this group for 5 to 7 minutes. So I decided to wait a week on that speech. Those things come up, and there's always perfectly good, legitimate reasons. Heck, our sergeant-at-arms had an emergency pop up at work today. She didn't want to say no, but she had to logistically, but it's a subtle art because she found a way to still make sure that we at least had our supplies by texting all the officers in our club and asking one of us to come by and pick up the supplies. And I did that, and we have our supplies here. So she did the responsible thing when she faced a logistical hurdle that she couldn't surpass. But I want to really focus on the second reason for saying no, and that's to prevent burnout. And I'm sure all of us have seen it or experienced it ourselves at work or college, organizations like Toastmasters. You see, we all join for reasons. People join Toastmasters to become better speakers or to become better leaders, and it does that for them. But they stick around because they're finding an element, at least this is my opinion, they're finding an element of joy and satisfaction in their participation being part of this organization. And when you commit yourself to doing something big, sometimes it's, let's say it's a long-term project, there should be a light at the end of the tunnel. There should be, okay, this kind of sucks right now, but eventually it's going to pay off. We're going to have an awesome event. I'm going to feel good about it right afterwards. That needs to be there. But if you find yourself saying yes and saying yes feels good, it's a dopamine hit, right? Oh, I'll do that. Oh, yeah. If you do that, and then you find yourself involved in this commitment and there's no light at the end of the tunnel, or it's very dim or hard to see, and you try to keep things moving during that, you're going to eventually just become unhappy, and you're going to, like I said, burn yourself out. And I want, especially the new members, Liz, for example, people are going to ask you to help out with things here. You're here to grow. You also should be focusing on what your priorities are as a member of this group and what will bring you joy and satisfaction. And if you're not seeing those things happen, you need to reanalyze what are my priorities with this organization? What are my goals and what's bringing me joy and satisfaction? That's a question you have to ask yourself over and over again. To summarize, say yes when you can. Say yes often. This is by offering your skills, your talents, and your time, you make these wonderful things happen. But also, don't be afraid to, and if you've given a good analysis of what you get out of something, to say no if it's ultimately going to end up causing you to burn out and maybe leave, and nobody here wants to see that. Man, Toastmaster.